Guys, thanks for tuning in this week to Tank TV, and I wanted to pretty much just give you a bit more of an update on the tank room this week, but not so much a tank room tour, as I did that about a month ago, and not too much has changed in that time. One thing has changed is I've managed to create an 8-foot space in here. So stay tuned, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because that's going to be coming further on down the line in the channel. But what I wanted to do for you was just to dive into the individual tanks themselves, talk to you about the fish, what's going on in the tank room with the actual tanks themselves, the occupants and the fish and the coral. Now there isn't too much that has changed here in the tank room, like I said, but there are going to be a few things changing with the tanks. So again, the 250 budget reef, there's going to be a few things changing which I'll get into in a minute. What I wanted to do was just give you a bit more in-depth detail on what's going on in the tanks themselves. I'm always sat in front of the tanks making videos, so I thought I'd give you a bit of an update on what's going on. Now before I get into that, I just want to do a couple of shout outs that I feel personally are owed. So the first person I really want to mention is Saltwater Steve. Now Steve mentioned my channel a couple months ago at the early stages, and I said I would give him a mention back out. Guys, go and check out his channel and follow it. He's probably one of the most nicest, genuine people you'll meet or come across on YouTube. He talks about the day in, day out's problems, struggles, positives, negatives of dealing with a reef tank. He gets his family involved. You'll gather from his accent, he's based out in Australia, so you get some really good videos of him going out, catching fish, because of obviously where he's based, coming home, like I said, gets his kids involved. It's just a great, genuine channel. He goes through the highs and lows of keeping a saltwater tank. He doesn't hide anything. If he's got a problem, if he's got an issue in his tank, he talks about it, he takes you through, he then takes you through what he's done to fix the problems. It's just a genuinely nice bloke to watch and follow on YouTube. Now the second person I wanted to mention, and I feel he deserves a mention anyway, and that is Paul from Big Fish Lad. Now Paul mentioned my channel and promoted my channel at the early stages, and that's just Paul in general. The great thing about Paul, his channel's really good anyway. Watching his videos, it feels like you're sat down, having a coffee, having a beer with him, just having a general chit chat about fish. But the good thing about Paul and what he likes to do is he likes to use his platform to help and promote other YouTubers, fish keepers, shops, and so on and so forth. We talk all the time by phone. Usually it's me just winding him up about the Oscars that I've got here. I think he's got the sense of humour to deal with me, but absolutely great guy. We had a subscriber that got in contact with me last week, asked for my opinion on one of his fish, on one of his Oscars. I went through it in regards to what the issue or the problem may be. I sent him to Paul just for a second opinion, because again, Paul is an Oscar specialist and he was happy to help him out as well. So again, Paul, thank you for the mentions. It's your shout out. Both Steve and Paul, I'll pop their channels in the description below. Go check them out, press the subscribe button, actually go and do it because they deserve the support. But other than that, let's go dive into these tanks. So let's get straight into the 250 budget reef. Now, I've mentioned a few times in previous videos why it's called the budget reef, but if it's the first time you're here, I'll give you a quick rundown. While I was waiting for the 1,000 litre to be built, I got a little bit bored. I had some space here at the time, which was classed as a garage before it became the tank room, and I wanted to put a tank together, or did put a tank together on everything that was free, second hand, from shutdowns, everything from the tank, the rock, the equipment, the lighting, even the fish, the coral, everything has come cheap or free. But with that said, it is absolutely running on full throttle at the moment. Sometimes I feel a little bit guilty because all this pretty much gets is I replace the rower once a month and it gets a 20% water change every 2 weeks. Because it's only a 250 litre, the water change doesn't take that long, but what I feel guilty is sometimes I feel the fish need a little bit more care and attention, but the ecosystem has settled, it's running absolutely brilliant. So the tank itself is filled with natural seawater. I've mentioned it in videos before. I'll pop their website in the description below, but if you mention Tank TV, when they deliver your water each month, you will get a little bit of discount. Great thing about natural seawater is it comes with so many natural beneficial bacteria and elements. The only thing I really have to do is buffer the KH a little bit, but other than that, this tank is absolutely thriving. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there are going to be a few changes in this tank. Now, what it is the tangs that are currently in this tank are going to be coming out of here and going into the 1,000 litre reef. The tangs will be safe in there because they're not going to be considered as dinner, they're not mouth sized, but once them tangs come out and they go into the 1,000 litre, the tank is just going to look empty. Now, yeah, we've got the clowns in there, but they pretty much just live in the nem at the back of the tank. We've got the cleaning wrasse, the 6-line wrasse, a couple gobies in there. The fuzzy dwarf line is going to be going into the 1,000 litre tank as well, so I don't know what I'm going to do with this tank yet. Now, I do have an extra foot or two in space. At the moment, the tank's not up against the wall because it's just where I store the RO for the top up, but I am going to have the opportunity or the space to either make the tank bigger, because with it being at 4 foot, once the tangs come out, I'm not really too sure what I want to do. And what I'll probably do is get the tangs out. Once they're in the 1,000 litre, then means we're going to have 4 tanks or four reasonably sized tanks up and running. The 1,000 litre is going to need a lot of care and attention to get it started. Give it a few months, let everything settle, work out my routine as well of doing water changes on 4 tanks week in, week out, and then decide what we're going to do with this tank. So moving on to the 240 fluval tank with the rescue puffers. So again, a bit of a background check on what's going on with this tank. About 3 months ago now, we rescued some green spotted puffers from the local fish shop. Now, they were in really bad shape, or 2 of them were anyway. One of them, I'm surprised, if after I took them in, he would have been lucky if he had an extra 2 to 3 weeks left to live. They were brought in, they were in fresh water, they were at the realistic size where they should have been in brackish. What I've now done with this tank is I've switched it all the way through to salt water. I discovered pretty quickly I really didn't fancy doing weekly water changes and mixing the water and the salt, so I decided to just keep switching it through all the way to salt water. Now, like I said, 2 of them needed some real care and attention. There's a clear indication of worms and internal parasites. One needed dental work doing to the point that the teeth have pretty much deformed his jaw now. He's got a bit of a sort of dog nose shape to his face, but we got him clipped down as much as possible. Everything went really well. The biggest problem I do have in this tank at the moment is because the 2 of them were really underweight and really skinny, I had to heavily feed this tank to get some weight put back on them. Now, what also came with that is one of them that was perfectly fine and healthy, the more dominant puffer, has had his fair share of food. So at the moment, I'm trying to get him on a treadmill and get him to lose some weight. I've dropped the feed in a little bit. I've spread in the food around the tank because yes, he has had his fair share and he has put on some weight to show it. Now the other 2, they are looking really good now. All 3 of them are getting on really well. They've been together since Wriggler, so at the moment the tank is doing fine. As they get bigger, you know, these guys can potentially hit sort of 4 to 6 inches. The 240 probably isn't going to be big enough, but again, the way I've got the tank set up at the moment is I have got the space to go on all my tanks an extra foot or 2 to expand them if I need to. But yeah, they come in, and like I said, it's just been a great little story with these. They come in, they were in really bad shape, they were in the wrong water, we had internal issues, teeth problems, we've got it all turned around, we've got it all fixed, and personality wise, they're just absolutely brilliant to watch. So the 650 new arrival freshwater tank with the new arrival, the 650 freshwater with the super red tigers in. So these guys have been in the tank now for about 2 weeks, and as always, they're just acting like hungry little puppies, nose to the glass, always asking for food, but they are doing absolutely brilliant. Settled in really well. Like I said, super tigers, they are a selected bred fish. It'd be interesting to see how they turn out. To be honest, because the consistency isn't there yet and it hasn't been, or they haven't been selected bred long enough, I may end up with 2 that look like what is classified as a super red tiger. I may end up with another 2 that just look like plain tigers and a 5th one that looks like a mixed mongrel. But the tank's doing really well. Because the tank's freshly cycled, the fish have only just gone in, they've just kind of just been left for the first 2 weeks, got a little bit of evaporation, but the first 2 weeks I just wanted to leave it and just let it do its thing, let the fish settle in. So there's Monday, maintenance evening, so they're going to get their first water change and they can go and sulk in the corner this evening. Currently in the market, speaking with Pier Aquatics at the moment, so I've got some geos that are going into here. Got someone as well just to help look and maintain afterward. I'm picking him up in a couple of weeks from a friend of mine. But they just look absolutely incredible at the moment, doing really well. They're being fed really well at the moment. They're only at sort of 2 to 3 inches in size, so they're being fed quite heavily 2-3 times a day. They're getting a really good mixed diet. The secret weapon included in that, which I said is the colour enhancer, so we'll see how that gets on, but they're colouring up really well. Like I said, when they first went in, yes, they are classed as super reds, or they've come from a selective strain or selective breeding distributor where they are classed as super reds, but we'll see how they turn out. They're colouring up really nicely already. The tank in here just looks absolutely amazing. It's one that once I've got the kids in bed, I go and have a shower, open up a beer, pull a chair up and just sit in front of it for half an hour, having a beer before I chill out for the evening and just watch the tank and just watch these guys. They've got so much personality. They're so fun to watch. I haven't managed to get too much footage for you yet, like I said, of them just acting natural, because as soon as you approach the glass, they're just asking and begging for food every single time, but they look so good at the moment in this tank. The tank itself functioning really well. Obviously got the upgraded FX6 on there with over 25 litres of media. The second FX6 running with the upgraded sponges, and also where I'm going to be running all the sort of chemical filtration in there, so I've left the baskets a little bit more empty. It is one of the favourite tanks in here for me personally at the moment. Now the 650 or the 600 litre volume at the moment is fine for 5 Oscars, but lengthwise, as they grow out, these guys grow pretty quickly. Over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, they're going to be nearly 4 times the size, and the 5 foot in length is probably going to be a little bit of a struggle. I wouldn't be happy with it anyway. The 600 litre volume is pretty much achieved through the width and the height of the tank. But that is why I said at the beginning with a cheeky little grin that I've created an 8-foot space in this fish room. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because it's going to be a tank worth watching. These guys are likely going to go into that 8 foot, or they will go into that 8-foot tank. That is the long-term plan, but that will also open up room for more fish to go in the tank also. But I've been excited about this tank for a while now. It's been empty for ages. It's nice to finally see it up and running and see it coming to life. I don't think you could have a better personality fish in there to sit there and watch. The scape I'm really happy with. That is algae up there floating at the moment at the top. That was my fault. When I was soaking the wood, it was when we were having that 30-40 degrees heat, and for a month or 2 months the wood was sat outside in the sun. I thought I managed to scrub it all off, and I pressure washed it as well. Obviously got a little bit there, but it's Monday, it's maintenance night, so I'll be getting a good scrub down tonight. These are the fish I like to wind Paul up about. Paul's one of them Oscar keepers that likes his Oscars wild caught, or something you would find in the wild. Because these are a selective bred fish, it's not something you're going to find out there in the wild. But they're hungry all the time, they're looking really healthy. The fish are obviously from Tropca. I done a video last week or 2 weeks ago on going to pick up the fish and the fish being introduced into the tank themselves. The tank's beautiful, absolutely love it. Like I said, it's a starting tank for these guys. We've got the 8-foot space obviously to get them moved over once they get to a size where they need to be moved. We've got the Geos going in a couple of weeks. Stay tuned to see them going in. They're coming down from Pier Aquatics over the next week or two, but absolutely buzzing for this tank. So guys, if you enjoyed the video and you want to obviously see everything else that's going on here, like I said, we've got the 1,000-litre reef to get set up. We've got the 8-foot space now created. See how these guys grow out and what's going on in the 250 budget reef. Go and hit the subscribe button. Again, go and check out Paul and Steve that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you next time.